Good afternoon and welcome in. Mason Blue Review, Sharpening the Edge for week number 7. Welcome in. I'm Dennis Fithian. Brandon Justice is here, and there's Lucus Reimink. He's ready to go as well. Guys, how you doing? You ready to pick some games?
Oh, yeah. Ready to go. Big
week.
bounce
Big
back
week
for me.
All right, that's the kind of confidence I like. Let's start out right on the bottom of the screen with Lucas with the big game in Ann Arbor. We've been waiting for this one for a long time. Michigan and Penn State. The Wolverines are laying a big 7 points in this game. 50.5 is the over and under that I looked at earlier. Which way are you going, Lucas?
Okay, so to start off, I mentioned a couple weeks ago I've been working on my own power ratings. I've only had them active for like the last 2 weeks. I'm kind of doing like 2 teams every week, and trying to get sort of more teams built into it. And so far with Michigan games, I've only had it up for 2 weeks, but I've only been off the points and the way that the games played out by 3 total points in the last 2 games. So I've been pretty locked in, at least on the Michigan, like where their point spread is. I was off by 2 in the Iowa game and 1 in the Indiana game. So I'm going to trust that this week. I don't really have any idea what's going to happen in this game personally. So I'm just going to trust the power ratings that I've built.
All right.
That's sort of what I'm going for. And right now I have this as an 8-point game on a neutral field. So you factor in the home field advantage for Michigan. It's like 9.5, 10 points is kind of what I'm thinking here. So I'll take Michigan minus the 7.
Michigan minus the 7. We have told everybody what our record was the previous week. Lucas, do you have yours available?
Yeah, I was 4-4-1.
4-4-1, right down the middle. Okay,
yep.
That's pretty good. Justice, are you following along with Lucas's models laying down? How do you see Michigan, Penn State, Michigan minus 7?
Well, we'll start with the betting perspective here. And, I've got this new setup for us so that I don't have to constantly look at the same screen back and forth. I've got 2 screens going now, so some real advanced stuff happening here for Sharpening the Edge in beautiful Trenton, Michigan. So from a betting perspective, this line it's frozen, essentially. It hasn't moved like at all. When it opened at 8.5, Sharps kind of bet it down to 7. And from there is where we kind of figured out what Vegas and what people and pros in general thought about this line, because when it got to that 7 in the early week, if it continued to go more towards Penn State, then that shows us, how much Penn State's being valued. If it kicked back out to Michigan, then it shows how much Michigan's being valued. But it being frozen while all the money still is about, I think it's like 60. Yeah. Okay. 63% of the money still on Penn State. Well, about 2 days ago, 73% of the money was on Penn State, and that line was at 7. And now we've ducked down to 10% less money with Penn State. People are starting to bet Michigan, and bets that matter are starting to land on Michigan. They're at 7.5 in some markets. If you see that hook come on tomorrow strong, then it really is telling from a betting perspective how they see this game going. From a game perspective, we talked about this pre-show, Dennis. Michigan is the best tackling team in the country. Penn State is one of the worst. Michigan's tackling grade is first. Penn State's is like in between 113 and 118. I have it somewhere. Just understand it's extremely bad. They're in like the 43 range.
Third worst in the Power 5, according to your story that I read this morning.
Yeah. So in the Power 5, Penn State's the 3rd worst tackling team in the country, which is telling, right? So on top of that, they don't block well at all. They have one of the best tackles in the country in Fashanu. I think that's how you say it. Their left tackle is tremendous. The problem is they've got one other guy who's okay, and then everyone else is just terrible for Penn State in the offensive line. Like, it's bad. Michigan has, and this is really the synopsis of the game for me, Michigan has everything to counter what Penn State does offensively. The only thing that Penn State can really put out there to counter Michigan would be a ton of play action and tempo, which is what Indiana kind of put on tape. But what Indiana did well to harm Michigan in coverage was attacking its linebackers. And Michigan's best linebacker in coverage is Junior Colson, who's 122nd overall among qualifying linebackers. So there is one blip and there is one spot, underneath and over the middle. And, Sean Clifford's depth of target being right around the 8-yard mark makes sense for a game like this. That's really all Penn State can do. But there's just too many things for Michigan to counter here. They have a top 10 rush defense. They're top 10 in coverage, best tackling team. They're so highly ranked in everything defensively. The pass rush has come on strong. It's 11th and best in the country grading wise. And then offensively, Michigan's fits, the run fits are going to, in my opinion, and you'll hear about this when we get to our prop, Michigan's run fits against Manny Diaz's defensive scheme, especially when they start to go to more of the gap stuff. I think it's going to be. I think Blake Corum's going to have a tremendous day. So I'll take Michigan with the points -7. This feels like an 11.5 point victory for Michigan. It's funny, Lucas, that your system came out with that because that's kind of just how I saw it working out based on just not a system, but that's how I saw it too. So I'll take Michigan with the points.
What was your record last week?
Oh, it's 2-5-1. Not great, Bob, but we're back down to earth, baby.
Yeah, well, when you've been ripping them off 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, impressive above 500. Once in a while, you're going to dip below. Me, I'm 5-3-1 this past week. I'm feeling pretty good about that. And there's a couple selections in there that were really close to making that record even better. I am looking at this game. I thought that number was a little bit too big, but I think Michigan being able to stop the run is going to be the most important, setting that edge, leveraging the football. And I really like, I think Penn State does have some talent. I think it's pretty close to Michigan's, but the skill position talent that Michigan has, I think with J.J. McCarthy being at home, being the dual threat quarterback and feeling like they're going to unleash him a little bit more. I like Michigan in this game, but the 7 points a little bit too much. 27-21 is the score that I have. Michigan winning it, so I would take the 7 if I was out there, but I wouldn't actually in this one. But those are the picks for U of M and PSU. Let's go to the next selection, and that's Michigan State. There they are, and they're getting 7.5 points. This is weird against a Wisconsin team that fired their coach, but the Badgers come in and they're favored. I got that right? They're favored by 7.5 points in East Lansing. All right, Lucas, you're shaking your head. I want to see what does your model say about this one?
Yeah, that's the line. I don't know. My model, I wouldn't say I trust it necessarily because I only have it as a 1 point game, but that doesn't really factor in the coaching change from Paul Chryst to Jim Leonard because I don't really know what to do with that. So I'm really just going to stay away from the spread. The 7.5 seems weird to me. But Wisconsin has looked like a different team since they got rid of Paul Chryst. So maybe they just didn't like their coach. I don't know. And now they're back to playing hard-nosed Wisconsin football. I'm not really sure. I want to see that play out for a few more weeks before I'll sort of like reassess Wisconsin and where they're at. But so my play for this game would be the under 49.5 because really the only thing that I'm confident in Michigan State is their defensive, like their front seven is really good at defense. And I think Wisconsin's offense in general is obviously predicated on running the ball. I don't really trust Graham Mertz's ability to throw the ball over the yard. And Peyton Thorne also hasn't looked very good for Michigan State this year. They've struggled to run the ball against good defenses as well. So I'll just take the under 49.5 there for my play in this game.
All right. The under in the Michigan State-Wisconsin game, we go to Brandon Justice.
I'm on the over. 89% of the money is on the over, and usually I like to play a little contrary, but there's a lot more money than there is bets. Wisconsin's last 4 games have gone over, and those are in games that include Northwestern, whose offense is just miserable, and Illinois, a game where Wisconsin only scored 10 points. And Michigan State, Ohio State obviously went for 69 points. There are some variables right there, right? Like CJ Stroud is not playing in this game, so you can't really account Michigan State's last game. Northwestern is like extremely bad, so Wisconsin's having an easier time scoring there. But Michigan State's secondary is bad, and I know that you said Graham Mertz can't throw the ball vertically. I just don't know if they're going to need to throw the ball vertically to have success in the air against Michigan State. Michigan State can't tackle well. They can't cover well. There's really nothing from this Michigan State defense that's been encouraging, I would say. And yeah, Peyton Thorne hasn't been good, but Wisconsin's defense hasn't been great either. And I think Peyton Thorne is certainly talented enough to go out there and throw. We've seen him play better than what he's played in a game where Michigan State is, in my opinion, the talent discrepancy is closer here. And I think what we've seen trend wise between these two teams, it just seems like a game where they both kind of are in that bounce back type of vibe. and they just pull out all the stops to score as many points as they can, because both teams' biggest problem is they can't keep up with the team on the other side. So I'll take the over for a multitude of reasons. It's just a non-typical Wisconsin defense. I mean, for 4 straight Wisconsin games to go over. Now, granted, those lines sometimes, or I think all 4 of those lines were lower than the 49.5 we're looking at right now for Wisconsin and Michigan State. But there's just too many things that point towards the over, from the money to Michigan State's secondary to Wisconsin's defense, just the spot in general. Both teams desperately need a win. So I'll take the over. Yeah, Not that I want to. I mean, I would stay away from this if I had a choice, but we have to pick Michigan State every week. So
right, I would stay away from this as well. I keep getting burned by Michigan State, picking them outright against Washington, picking them outright against Minnesota. I finally wised up the last 2 weeks, and was going Maryland, went Ohio State, feeling pretty good about that. So having said all that, I feel stupid because I am taking the 7.5. I just don't think what Wisconsin does well. What they want to do well is try to run the ball. Lucas mentioned that's the one thing that Michigan State can do. And I don't think Wisconsin, I don't know if they can score 10 points. I like a lower scoring game, but I think that Michigan State, I'll take the Spartans and the 7.5. My model, which is right over here, is 18-17. I have Wisconsin winning it, so I'll take the 17.5 gladly. That gets us to the Lions. They're +10 on the bye, and I think we'll all take the bye there. All right, let's go right back to Justice, who has 3 teams. Now we pick just 3 teams, whether it's college or pro, and we put them out there for your enjoyment, and we start with Justice.
All right, well, we'll start with Auburn. They're getting 15 points against Ole Miss this weekend, and I know Auburn has been terrible, and there's not a whole lot of good things going on at Auburn, but Ole Miss covered 17 against Vandy, but let them score 28. 19 from Kentucky, 27 from Tulsa. I just feel like 15 is too many points. Auburn's getting some health back this week. Again, we're at that middle part of the schedule where teams who looked miserable are beginning to look a bit less miserable. Like Auburn is not going to have a good season, but it seems like they're starting to understand how to play together, and they're getting some health back. So at 15, I just feel like you're over that key number, 14.5, 13.5 is a 1.5 away from you. So you're avoiding that key number and you're at 15. You got some room here to work, I think. So I like the 15. And again, 71% of the money is on Auburn. 41% of the tickets are on Auburn. So it's telling you that the pros are on the Tigers. Another weird one. I'm a big underdog guy this week, I guess. Florida State +3.5. This line has moved a lot. Like it was at like 7.5, 8.5 at open, or around maybe even more. It might have been 9.5. Hard to tell. It varies by the book. But it was right around that mark, like 8.5, 9.5. And now it's down to 3.5. And I think it's going to keep going. Seminoles are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games. They covered 3.5 Clemson covered 3.5 against NC State last week, but still, the sharp money and the pros are all over Florida State. Let's see here. I got so many notes, guys. Clemson covered against NC State, but they were 0-3 before beating Boston College. So Boston College and NC State they've covered against, but the 3 previous games Clemson failed to cover. And then this is the staggering one. We always go to what with Clemson in the past? Like historically, what is the winner for Clemson? It's defense, right? Like they're covering spreads in the past because of their defense, but that defense this year has given up 20, 45, and 20 points. So they've given up 85 points combined against NC State, Wake Forest, and Louisiana Tech. Now, we understand that the Wake Forest game wasn't an anomaly. It was a triple overtime or whatever it was. I understand that. But 20 to Louisiana Tech, and 20 more to NC State. They're giving up points they're not used to giving up. And Florida State, trend-wise, they only have 24% of the bets and 40% of the money. But this line has moved how much towards Florida State? So despite virtually nobody betting on them, Vegas continues to move the line with them. So I will side with Vegas. And for no reason other than that, I'll take Florida State. I mentioned a few other things, but I am honestly only taking this because there is a stark signal showing us, and system, I guess you could call it, in that it's moving without really getting any of the bets. And then lastly, Oklahoma -9. I just think this is a huge bounce back spot for Oklahoma against the team it is supremely more talented than. Kansas, great story. It's been really cool, but I think this is it, right? They got beat by TCU last week, and pushing against TCU was a surprise. I mean, I was on TCU as a 7-point favorite and thought they were going to roll, so to only beat them by 7 was surprising. But I just think it's too much. Kansas has kind of gone through a gauntlet. They've had to face Iowa State, TCU, and Oklahoma all consecutively. Subsequently, what do you want to call it? And I just feel like that's a gauntlet for a team like Kansas that has played inspired, but they certainly are not more talented than anybody they're playing against. So despite all the money being on Kansas, which is 73% of the money on Kansas, this line continues to go with the Sooners. And similarly to the Florida State line, I'll take it with that in mind, but I'll also take it because there's so many other trends that point towards the Sooners here. It's a bounce back. They're coming off 3 losses in the Big 12. This is a big, hey, we're better than them. We can go out there and smash them. So let's go do that. You're at 9, so you're still avoiding 9.5. If you can stay under 9.5 and take the Sooners, I'm all over it.
All right. Well thought out and executed and delivered by, was it BR +1? Is that what one of the handles are? Is that right? I get that right?
Which one? Which one?
Don't you have one of your bylines as a BR +1 or something? Isn't it something like that?
I don't think so.
On the Maize and Blue Review, sometimes you'll have your story out and it'll say BR +1. No? Okay.
I got to look this up.
Maybe for another time. I
got to find out what you're talking about.
Okay. While we do that, let's go to Lucus Reimink with his triple team pick here.
Sure. So I'll start with the most fun one. I'm going to go over 68.5, TCU Oklahoma State. It's a high number, rightfully so, because these two offenses are third and fourth in the country in scoring offense. Both defenses are in the mid to upper 50s in scoring defense. So what do I see there? Both offenses really, really good at scoring points. Neither defense is particularly effective at stopping opposing offenses. So that's why I like the over here. I don't really know who's going to win this game. 3.5, I think, for TCU at home. But I do feel confident that there are going to be a lot of points scored in this game. So I'll take the over 68.5 there. I'm going to go around to the Swamp for my second pick. I'll go Florida -2.5. The Gators they're at home, obviously. LSU has kind of struggled on the road. They've only played one road game, and it was at Auburn. The offense was really bad for the first half. Barely beat a bad Auburn team, 21-17. So I think going to the Swamp and playing the Gators is a lot different than playing what I think is mostly a lifeless Auburn team that's about to fire their head coach probably in the next week or so. So I'll take Florida -2.5 there. Well, they also have a common opponent in Tennessee. Florida lost by 5 on the road. LSU lost by 27 at home to Tennessee. So I think there's a stark contrast there in the common opponent as well. And then I'll go USC, Utah. I bet on USC a few times. I was on them early in this year.
That's right.
But I think some of it is just turnover luck, turnover margin. They get a little bit lucky in that statistic. So I think this is going to be kind of a crashing down to earth for the USC offense and defense. I'll take Utah -3.5. I don't think USC's defense is very good, particularly in the front seven. So that's problematic against a Utah team that wants to run the ball. They want to be physical, play action off of that. I mentioned the turnover luck. That's a really hard skill to replicate week to week on a consistent basis, especially on the road. I think that's a really hard skill to do. So Cam Rising, he's been around for a while. I think he can take care of the ball effectively here. So Utah -3.5 is playing that game.
I like it. All three fine selections. I'll go to my 3. I think Texas is going to wipe the field with Iowa State. I think they'll beat them by 25.5. I only have to lay 15.5. Quinn Ewers, the quarterback there. I'll take Texas -15.5. I'm with you. I like Oklahoma bouncing back. Plus, having a quarterback is really important, and Kansas's quarterback is out for the year. And the line is 9. I'll give up. I'll take Oklahoma -9. I think they'll win that one by double figures. And the other one I'm going with is a little sneaky. Indiana at home. They're getting 11.5 points. Maryland's all right, and Maryland might win the game, but I don't think they're winning it by 11.5 on the road. That's too big of a number for me. So give me the Hoosiers plus 11.5, and that'll get me to the parlay game. And for that, we're going to look first, I guess, at last week's, where I was so close. I had the Jets winning outright. I had the Texans +7. I didn't need the 7. And then I got to Arizona outright, which would have cashed, and they missed a field goal to take that one to overtime. So close when it came down to that one, but we're not playing close here. Oh, there's that 14 one that I won a couple weeks ago. This is the one. I've got a 3-team Big Ten home underdog parlay. That's a mouthful, but look at it there. I'm going, all these teams are at home. I like Illinois in the money line against Minnesota. I like Indiana, who I just mentioned there on the money line. And I'm taking Michigan State, even though I picked Wisconsin to win by 1. And this parlay, I like the value of getting 44 or 32. Start putting some money down and see what you get if all 3 of those come through. It's a nice payday. I like this one. I feel really good about having a bunch of green arrows at the end of the day. Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan State, a 3-team Big Ten home underdog parlay for the win. Let's go to Lucus Reimink for his parlay.
Sure. I haven't hit any parlays in college, so I'm going to try the NFL this time. Just
there you go. That's the way to go.
Hope for something different here. So my first one, I'm going to go under 45 and Bucs Steelers. Neither offense has really gotten rolling. I don't really trust Kenny Pickett to start to get rolling against this good Buccaneers defense. And I think if the Bucs do get up, I think they'll be content just to run the ball and get out of there with a win. I'm going to go under 45 there. And then so this is kind of just a gut feel. We've had a lot of primetime unders recently in the NFL. Thursday night, Monday night, Sunday night have all been unders recently, a lot of them. So I'm going to go over a primetime game here, 53.5 Bills Chiefs. It's kind of just a fun one. This is like a fun, it's a good gut feel. We've had a ton of unders. I feel like we're almost owed and over in primetime game. Seems like a really good candidate to break that streak, even though it's a high total. I could see that one being a back and forth high scoring affair. And then the Eagles money line as the third leg in that parlay, just to beat the Cowboys. I think Cooper Rush streak of winning his starts comes to an end. I don't know if the Eagles can really cover the 6.5, so I don't really want to take that. But I do think they're going to win this game, given that they're at home. And you combine those 3, and it's +396. So I like the odds of that happening.
Parlays are fun. That's the whole thing. That gets us to Mr. Fun, Brandon Justice.
Hello. All right, I got a college parlay and an NFL parlay because I'm a sicko. The college parlay is +532. Western money line at home against Ohio. I think we're starting to see Western play a bit better. And I think at home, just a good matchup for them. You're getting good odds at 103 as well. NC State money line +143 in a bounce back game at Syracuse. Again, I like the value there. I think NC State's a good team with a good quarterback. Syracuse has won some games, but the strength of schedule isn't great. NC State coming off a close loss a couple of weeks ago. I think still at number 15, playing number 18 Syracuse to get 143 on a money line is some value. I just think NC State's a better team. So, and then on the third leg, I have Oklahoma money line, just because I want a winner in there, right? So those are my 3 legs for the college. And then in NFL, I have I don't have the odds on this, but I just went straight spread here. So a little bit of a risky parlay, so more of like a sprinkle than it is a bigger bet. But I've got the Jets +7.5. I just think anytime you can get an underdog in the NFL above a touchdown line, you're doing yourself a disservice, I would say. And on top of that, I just like the Jets are kind of good. Like the defense is playing extremely well. The offense is somewhat productive and efficient enough, right? And Green Bay is like not. They're trending downwards. They just continue to be boring. And I think that Green Bay's okay winning every game by 4 or losing every game by 4. So to get 7.5, I think you're getting value there. I love Philly at 6.5. They're too good for Cooper Rush to handle it defensively. 6th overall, according to PFF, 6th best pass rush by PFF. The Dallas pass protection is okay. It's like 16th in the league, like right in the middle of the pack. Philly's defense is 7th in coverage. If Dallas likes to run the ball, but they're 27th in the run block, and Philly's probably got one of the 3 or 4 best rush defenses in the NFL. You're getting the 6.5 number, so I like Philly. And then the Dolphins and the Vikings under 45.5. These are 2 of the top 3 rush defenses in the league, and there's 2 teams that has to win through running the ball. Like Miami doesn't want to do that when Tua's playing, but without Tua and Skylar Thompson in, like It's pretty much what they're going to have to do, it seems like.
Yes.
So if under 45.5, I just think like Vegas is like, anybody, please take it. So take the under there. And that's those are my two parlays.
I'd never heard of Skylar Thompson before 2 weeks ago. Let's go right.
State quarterback.
Let's go right back to you for a prop bet as we take it around. We've got props and best bets left, but we'll go to a prop with Justin.
Yeah, so for my prop, I am going to call back to earlier in the show. First thing we talked about was how well Michigan's run fits are going to scheme up against Manny Diaz's defense. Manny Diaz does a lot of Don Brown stuff, in that he's asking a lot of guys to do things that are going to end up with them over pursuing at the edge, and they're just not going to be able to contain Corum because he's so good between the tackles and he's so good off of them. He's shown an ability to be elusive in both ways. His vision, I mean, like that run that we saw against Indiana last week, the vision he has is really hitting elite territory. Penn State's run defense is okay, but it's really the scheme and how that's going to fit against the scheme that I think is the difference here. Blake Corum's ran for over 300. That would be something. He's ran for over 100 yards in 3 straight games. And the prop line is only, I say only, which hilariously, it's at 102.5. And I think that's a bit dangerous because I could very well see Blake Corum running for 101 yards, but I could also see him running for 200 in a game where Michigan is going to ask him to, I think, tote the ball quite a bit. It's not because they need to keep the ball away from Penn State. It's that the only reason Penn State continues to win ball games is through turnovers. Against Northwestern, they won by 10 points in a game where they forced 5 turnovers, and they only scored 17 points off of 5 turnovers. Not good. As long as you don't shoot yourself in the foot against Penn State, and you're better than them, which I think Michigan is, you're probably going to win. So Michigan, we know how much Michigan loves to run the ball in general, against a scheme that's going to offer them, I think, the best fits they've had all season. In the Big Ten play, I would say. It's just one of those things where I see Blake Corum having a big day, especially running the ball in the gap.
I like it. I'm looking at some of the alternate rushing yard numbers, plus 100 if he goes over 105. Plus 245, 130, plus 550 if he goes over 155 yards. Those are the numbers I'm looking at. You give me an exacto on Corum's rushing yards. I'll give him 115 yards.
128.
128. What are you thinking, Lucas?
It's tough. I'll go 110.
That's fair.
You're the low man.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I think Donovan Edwards might get a little more playing time this week. He's sort of working his way back from ankle injury, so I don't know if they're going to give it to Corum, 25 to 30 times. I could see him spreading it out a little bit more.
Fair enough. How about your prop? Where are you going here?
Sure. So I'm going to go back to the Maryland-Indiana game. Michigan fans might remember Indiana has a pretty bad secondary. All the stats leading into the game last week where they were in the hundreds of pass efficiency, passing yards allowed, all those sorts of things. So India doesn't have a good secondary. J.J. McCarthy threw for just over 300 yards for the first time in his career, despite it being more of a run-first offense. And then you look at Maryland, they really like to air it out. They throw the ball 66% of the time, which is among the highest in the country throwing percentage. So I think Talia going over 305.5 passing yards against Indiana is my prop of the week.
That, what, I listen. Sometimes you just listen to something I'm jumping in on that one. I think I might jump in on that. For my prop, I have been betting J.J. McCarthy passing yards all year long. I'm going to do it again here. I can get McCarthy over 245 passing yards plus 125. That is going to be my prop, and I'll just jump right back on my favorite. I'm going to use a prop here. This is, and I think, I know you guys have both said, Michigan, and they probably will. That's the way they've been doing things, and you guys know Jim Harbaugh, but I think they're going to flip the script and throw the ball an awful lot. So that's why I have J.J. McCarthy going over 245. And I feel like this is going to be the Ronnie Bell game. A few years ago, Ronnie Bell dropped that ball. Ronnie Bell has been McCarthy's favorite target. If you go over 65 yards, you get plus 105. I'm just looking to catch a W here, too, with you guys, so I can put it up on the board. I really like over 85. I get plus 240. But I'm just going to go just over 65 to grab that W for my best bet of the week.
Yeah, I think Roman Wilson's return is going to be – it's probably why Ronnie's line's only at 60. Just because, I mean, Roman was the most targeted guy before last week. Ronnie just decided to catch every pass humanly possible last weekend.
Roman scored 2 touchdowns last year in Happy Valley.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Roman's a lot better than people think, just because he doesn't look like DK Metcalf, so it's not like a sexy profile, I would say, from a college football eyes perspective. But man, he can get open, especially in the zone. So yeah, I think. Or I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Where do you want to go next?
Let's go to you. You're in, man. I like it, man. You're ready to go.
I just wanted to offer a bit of dialogue on it. That's all. Yeah. So my best bet is probably going to lose because all signs point towards not taking it. But I'm just looking at it like, why is nobody taking this? But Illinois is getting 7 points, and I know Minnesota is good, but they lost, and I know they lost to Purdue, and it's like a bounce back spot. But Illinois is at home, right?
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. I'm not saying this wrong. Okay, so Illinois is getting 7 points at home.
I'm taking them. Look at
everyone who exists that likes Illinois football will fit into the stadium on Saturday, in my opinion. It's not going to be like a raucous environment, but like it should be a tough environment to play in still. Like it's not like Minnesota's traveling to 2-5 Illinois. Like Illinois is ranked. Illinois is 5-1. But the number one thing about Illinois is how well they run the ball and how good a defense they play. And when Brett Bielema calls the game, he scripts it so well, which sounds crazy to say out loud. But the way they get down the field and score early and then completely shut down and like park the bus up 7-0 for the rest of the game and how it continues to work is just like beyond me, but it does. Their run fits are probably one of few run fits in the country that look prettier than Michigan's or as pretty as Michigan's. I mean, they've done so many things with Chase Brown, and he's a talent, no doubt. He's excellent. But he needs to take his alignment out to dinner after the year and give him a royalty check when he gets drafted, because what he's been able to do in space has been a byproduct of what's been there for him in space, and it's so much good. The drawback here is Minnesota grades out so well. Like all the analytics love Minnesota. The computers love Minnesota. And you know, college football teams lose games when they're not supposed to. They play worse than their skill level sometimes, and that's what happened to them against Purdue. Minnesota's on paper a better team, analytically speaking, a better team. But Illinois is 4-0 at home this season, and then dating back to last year, Brett Bielema, I don't have the exact number, but he's almost doubled 500 at home. Like that, Illinois is a good home team. And they have good run fits and they have good players. So getting 7 points at home, you're above. Anytime you can get above 6.5 on a home dog, I mean, you're doing yourself a service, in my opinion, especially when the team is good. I mean, Illinois and Minnesota, in my opinion, they're both experiencing more success than they have in the past, Illinois especially. But for taking a step back and not considering any narratives and looking at this game from a black and white perspective, I think Illinois is not being a 7-point dog at home is telling me that you're 11 to 12 points worse than the team you're facing. And I don't think Illinois is 11 to 12 points worse than Minnesota. I think they're more so like 4 to 6. So when you're at 7, I think you're going to win this one on like a hook. Really. I think it's a hook win.
I'm with you. Sold. Let's go to I'm going to be right there with you. Let's go to Lucas, who's going to give us all a lot of money with this selection here.
Don't tell me you're on the opposite side of this.
No, I'm not. I'm not on the opposite side. I'm my best bet though is from the same game. And one of the reasons that I don't know if you're aware, either of you, of this, but Tommy DeVito, Illinois quarterback, got knocked out of the game last week against Iowa. Doesn't sound like he's going to play this week. So it'll be Art Sitkowski.
I thought he was in
quarterback. No, Sitkowski, the quarterback for Illinois. So
it is the Art Sitkowski game. Gosh dang.
I'm not a fan of that. So that's why my play of the game is my lock of the week is under 39.5 in that game, because these are the top 2 scoring defenses in the country here, believe it or not. Both are only allowing less than 9 points a game. They're the only 2 in the country that are giving up less than 9 points a game. And Mo Ibrahim is back for Minnesota, but with Tommy DeVito being out for Illinois, I think he's really been a part of why Illinois' offense has stayed successful and ahead of the change, is they had at least a semblance of a passing attack. I'm not sure that'll be there with Sitkowski at quarterback, and I think both of these defenses are really good. I think both teams. I get the +7 just because it's a home dog and you're getting a touchdown in what I think will be a low-scoring game. So I could see both of us hitting our bets here. But I think it's going to be a low-scoring, classic sort of Big Ten style game, 17-13 is kind of what I'm thinking. So I'll take the under 39.5, Minnesota, Illinois.
My site likes my pick so much on the 3-pick parlay. I went to cash out because I've got Illinois outright at home, but they're only giving me 7 cents on the dollar. So I'm riding it. I'm riding this guy that I've never heard of with the backup quarterback. I'm not going to take a loss before they even snap the ball.
It's a scheme win. It's a scheme win. Look, Artur Sitkowski, Brett Bielema's scheme, the ADOT's got to be like below. It's got to be below 6, right? So I mean, we'll be.
It has to be.
Well,
yeah, we'll be fine.
I take an Arkansas backup quarterback, and they didn't have a shot. So I'm working. Kansas, I did read about their backup quarterback's actually, not halfway. He's halfway decent, but he's nothing like the guy that they had. But if I would have known that information, I would not have gone outright. But so what? That's the way it goes. Nice job. You guys can all figure it out. You guys, good luck this week, and we'll see what happens next week with the selections. All right? There they are. Sharpening